Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. Today, unless we toe the party line, we risk the 3 C's: censure, censor, and cancel. We reduce the risk if we present an issue's pros and cons. Plus, wisdom does reside across the ideological spectrum. Truncating the discussion to either what's just left of center or what's right of center ultimately hurts us all. As they say, the best disinfectant is sunlight. Here are pros and cons regarding 9 controversial issues. Is democracy best? Here is the yes argument. Democracy, at least modestly, enfranchises us all. We all feel we have some say in who governs us, and in turn, the laws we must abide by. Also, the electorate's collective opinion tends to cancel out outliers' extremism. Plus, autocracies are more likely to lead to corruption and self-serving policies that hurt the public. Here is the no argument to is democracy best, or an argument. Spinmeisters' ever more sophisticated manipulations render the populace's voting worse than uninformed. It's elitist to think that most people have the time, the reasoning ability, and maybe even the literacy to reasonably curate candidates. Many of us don't know anything about the minor candidates. We vote based on their PR in the voters pamphlet, or even just if we like their name. An alternative is what I call select, don't elect. Legislatures would be selected using predetermined criteria. A few examples: the most cited scientist and philosopher of the decade, the winner of the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics Teacher of the Year Award, the most awarded police officer of the year, and some people selected at random. The legislatures would select their CEO, that is, the mayor, the governor, or the president. Select, don't elect eliminates from campaigns money, spinmeisters, and onerous 4-year press the flesh campaigning, which keeps some great people from wanting to serve in political office. Here's the second of these controversial issues in which I'll present pros and cons. Should the U.S. spend more on education? Here is a yes argument. Education holds promise for elevating us all, now and for future generations. That's especially true now in our ever more complex society, in which, for example, an ever higher percentage of jobs demand good reasoning and technical expertise. Apart from any instrumental advantage, providing more money to education improves the quality of students' experience during the enormous amount of time their kids spend in school. Here is the no argument, or a no argument, regarding whether the U.S. should spend more on education. And by the way, I have citations for each of the following assertions. The U.S. has long spent more on education than other countries, and yet achievement is back of the pack. And we've spent trillions trying to close the achievement gap, yet it remains as wide as ever. So much of education spending never gets to the classroom. The administrative and regulatory blob is Leviathan. It's wiser to let the taxpayer keep the fortune that even an incremental increase in education spending would extract from the people's pockets. By the way, it's depending on the study, the U.S. spends number 1, number 2, number 4, number 5 among all of the developed nations on education. An alternative to spending more on education is what I call super courses. Dream teams of transformational teachers would teach online, and that would enable kids who are rich or poor from Alabama to Zululand to get that world-class instruction. To assuage teachers' union fear of losing jobs, the super courses could be just used for homework, or a live teacher could be in the classroom to provide the human touch and for classroom management. Super courses would be, key features of them would be video demonstrations, and in addition to these great teachers that I've just described, simulations, plus gamification, all of that infeasible for a nation of teachers to create, let alone a world, and this could also, of course, be translated into any languages. Each course would consist of self-paced modules, and it would use branching so that it would home in on which modules each child needs, and what mode works best for that child. Pace, should it be more audio, more video, and so on. The third of the controversial issues in which I'm going to present a pro and con are, should we spend more on genomic research? Here's the yes argument. Understanding the genome offers our best chance for curing diseases, human, animal, and plant. If we include sufficient ethical guardrails, gene therapy could also allow us to improve human altruism and problem solving, thus accelerating our solving problems such as climate change, and providing good government while reducing our trillions of dollars of debt. Here is the no argument for spending more on genomic research. No guardrails will prevent rogue states and rogue non-state actors from manipulating the germline with unforeseen consequences. Even something far less potentially dangerous as gain-of-function research may have unleashed the COVID pandemic. We already spend plenty on genomic research. More would be unwise. The next issue on which I'll present a pro and con are, should we allocate additional education dollars to special education kids or gifted kids? Here is the argument for more for special ed kids. Even the Bible tells us to prioritize the least among us. Special needs students lost in the genetic and/or environmental lotteries, and we have an obligation to compensate by providing much more money for them than for average, let alone for gifted students, who will do much better than special ed kids even if we spend even less than the standard amount on them. And if we do spend big on special education students, we may save money in the long run. They'll be more likely to grow into self-sufficient adults. Now here's the argument for spending more on gifted students. Gifted kids are far more likely to improve all of our lives, to cure diseases, create even better iPhones, and be wise leaders, for example. Shortchanging them, as we currently do, many times more we spend on special ed kids than gifted kids, will hurt all of us. And while, yes, gifted kids will probably do better than will special ed kids on average, the amount of unrealized potential by continuing to shortchange gifted kids is enormous. To prioritize the least among us is reducing us to a lower common denominator, perhaps a race to the bottom. The next controversial issue on which I'll present a pro and con is, with computers killing ever more jobs, should we tax them? Here's the yes argument. Computers and nonprofits will make much more money by displacing humans with computers, which will impose large costs on society. For example, the unemployed are more likely to need not just unemployment insurance, but mental health services and assistance finding more work. Here is the no argument for taxing computers. By lowering costs and improving quality of everything from our supply chain to the results of medical research, all of us benefit enormously from computerization. Taxing computers restrains such progress and rewards stasis. Would the world have been better, for example, if we had taxed the equipment that was used in developing the telephone so we could preserve jobs for megaphone makers? The next controversial issue on which I'm going to offer a pro and con is, should we buy Bitcoin? Here is the yes argument. Powerful vectors bode well, long-term at least, for Bitcoin: antipathy to banks and government, and the desire for a lower friction, lower cost means of exchange. The short-term frauds, for example FTX, will in retrospect have been buying opportunities. Those frauds will accelerate government efforts to regulate cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin to the point where it is at least as safe as cash. After all, cash can be used for all manner of malfeasance. Here is the no argument for buying Bitcoin. Governments won't relinquish power, and relinquishing sovereign currency to the libertarian cryptocurrency would be anathema to government. And governments so powerful, especially in developed nations, has the power to crush crypto and will use it. Also, the media trumpets major crypto malfeasance, which will reduce businesses and individuals' confidence in crypto's desirability as a means of exchange. The next issue in which I want to present a pro and con are, should marijuana be legal? Here is a yes argument. Weed is a more enjoyable high for many people than alcohol, and its dangers aren't yet demonstrably greater. The public wouldn't stand for making both alcohol and marijuana illegal, so people should be as free to use weed as to use alcohol. Besides, the better high of marijuana will increase net use of mind-altering drugs, thereby increasing tax revenues. That will yield more government-provided services or even reduce government debt, which is an existential threat. Here is the no argument regarding legalization of marijuana. Marijuana has been studied for far less time than alcohol, yet just in the most recent decade, a mountain of evidence, and again, if you just Google dangers of marijuana, you'll see it's a ton, especially from the National Centers for Disease Control. A mountain of evidence indicates that weed is much more dangerous even than alcohol, or at least more dangerous even than alcohol. Marijuana has been implicated in everything from lowered IQ to lowered motivation, cancers to car accidents. It would be wisest to ban, in my judgment, both alcohol and marijuana. During Prohibition, alcohol use dropped by 1/3 with the attendant reduction in ruined lives, not just the abusers, but family members' lives, employers' lives. But making marijuana legal more than doubles the societal pain. The next, second to last of these controversial issues on which I'm going to offer pros and cons is, should job seekers cold contact target employers who are not advertising a job? Here's a yes argument. Unfortunately, squeaky wheels get the grease. Of course, to reduce the chance of your query being ignored, you need to write or call with something compelling. Typically, that's to briefly explain why you've chosen to contact that person at that organization, and your core abilities that the person or organization would value. Yeah, you're imposing a bit, but only a bit. After reading the first few lines, which takes just a few seconds, the person can press delete. If he or she chooses to read further or even talk with you, that's their choice. As long as you promise to help job seekers when you're in a position to, it's cosmically okay to cold contact a target employer. Here is the no argument to should job seekers cold contact target employers who aren't advertising a job. No. People, especially those likely to open a job or career door, tend to be very busy. Don't try to skirt the system. Look for well-suited jobs and apply like everyone else. To cold contact an employer is like trying to cut in line. Not good. And the final controversial issue on which I'm going to offer pros and cons is, would the world be better with one world government? Here's a yes argument. So many wars have been fought over territory. One world government would reduce the chance of that. And the world's natural and human resources could be distributed more rationally. What's best for the world? Here's the no argument for whether the world would be better with one world government. Even if all the 200 countries in the world would agree to surrender their sovereignty, it'll never happen, factions would soon emerge. Some group of people would want more territory, more resources, whatever. Let's devote our efforts to increasing the wise exchange among nations, not some unrealistic kumbaya fantasy of every country giving up their sovereignty. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko. I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments, and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.